tea, a campfire, and the great outdoors. It's a perfect way to start a morning. A wild, unmaintained 2,500 meter portage first thing in the morning? Not where it's at. This trail was a tough one to follow. I use the word trail loosely. Yes, that is the trail. So often one person would be ahead looking for the trail or a resemblance of it, and the other would be carrying the canoe. When we first started this portage the day before with our packs, we couldn't find the trail right off the bat. And even though just a slight depression in the ground is about all you get for a trail through here, it does still take the path of least resistance, and it is still easier than climbing over boulders and under downfall and pushing through hardhack that is like an impenetrable wall. So we tried as hard as we could to stay on the trail, even though it wasn't much of a trail. Here we lost the trail. To be honest, on this day I wasn't feeling so hot. My stomach had been bothering me for most of the trip at this point, and it had peaked. I think it was a mixture of nerves, and also I was taking my supplements but not eating a lot, and I think it was bothering my stomach. I really didn't feel good as we were going through this portage, and I was trying to just ignore that feeling and get to the other side. As we started to get to the other side, the barrens were quite difficult because the wind was starting to pick up. The force that this wind put on the canoe made traveling tough. We took a few breaks, had a few laughs, and tried to make the best of it, but the wind was continually getting worse. Between the wind and my upset stomach, we decided not to travel that day. It was a beautiful day, aside from the wind, and we didn't mind having a nap and reading our books, although it didn't help with my nerves. At this point, I started to worry that taking another day without travel would definitely ruin our timeline and force us to arrive home late. And that bothered me. It also didn't help that the next couple days were still calling for as much, if not more, wind. But as with many things in the backcountry, there was nothing I could do about it. So I had to just settle in, enjoy my book, end the day, and trust that whatever would be would be. The rest certainly wasn't going to hurt. The wind did calm down later in the day, and it hadn't been quite as bad first thing in the morning. So we agreed that we would get up early. We checked the sunrise time, set our alarms, and had all of our things pretty close to packed, or as close as they could be, so that we could hit the water as soon as it was light enough to do so. With those evening hours, we could have tried to travel, but the next nearest campsite was a fair distance away, and the campsite we were on was pretty magical, so what's a couple of hours? We were most definitely rewarded on the next morning. We paddled over to the island with the old-growth hemlock and pine, one of the bucket list items, just in time for sunrise. We hadn't made coffee or breakfast. We just grabbed some bars and left the campsite.
When we wake, hear the birds and see the sun. Side by side our fears are done. Oh, the good times just begun. We know what we have, let's hold on tight. Found what we're looking for in life. Call us crazy, but things are finally right. With you and I, the future is bright. Oh, you and I, we got it. Oh, we don't need no more. Oh, even in the hard times, you and I can weather any storm. Before I sleep, hear the crickets, see the moon. Side by side and through. No limit to what we can do. Oh, we know what we have, let's hold on tight. Found what we're looking for in life. Call us crazy, but things are finally right. With you and I, the future is bright. Oh, you and I, we got it. Oh, we don't need no more. Oh, even in the hard times, you and I can weather any storm. You and I, we got it. We don't need no more. Even in the hard times, you and I can weather any storm.
After we left the old-growth forest, we definitely needed some coffee. So at the end of the portage, where there was a sweet little brook, we stopped and boiled up the kettle. This day we would travel through some of the route that I knew the least. I had studied the least, and I didn't really know what to expect. I just knew that it would be tough. The portages would be hard to find and hard to follow, par for the course. And I didn't really know if we would make it all the way to my goal for the evening. But we were definitely going to try. For me, this section was exciting. It was the most wild and most remote feeling to me, and I enjoyed exploring and discovering. As we worked our way through it, we paid very little attention to time. We just moved and traveled and enjoyed the sights. One thing that stuck in our minds that gave us hope was that the portages today would be short, none more than half a kilometer.
They're nice and springy, they'll spring back up.
What's that?
They're nice and springy, they'll spring back up.
Yeah.
Though on part of the trail, some deadfall forced us to go off the trail and do a bit of bushwhacking. For the most part, this trail was a gem. Somebody had been through here and spent some time on it. There was actually a trail in places, and we very much appreciated it. After this, the stream narrowed, and there were a few beaver dams. Unfortunately, with every beaver dam, the water level dropped. We were no longer going upstream, in which the beaver dams would create more water each time you passed one. We were now going downstream, and every beaver dam meant lower water. It was starting to get really tough to move forward at a good pace. But after a spell of hard work, we came out to a pool that we were very happy to see. Unfortunately, that pool ended with a portage we couldn't find. It was hidden behind a downed tree. A lot of work got us through the portage, sometimes crawling on our hands and knees to get under hardhack and spruce trees that were so thick. Obviously, we weren't actually on the portage, but we found the portage on the way back for the canoe, and we cleaned it and we flagged it for the next people.
That's kind of neat. You can almost see underneath of it the whole way.
After the next wild portage, we decided it was time for lunch. The blackflies had decided it was also time for lunch. How nice of them to join us. I had hoped that after the last lake the water levels would be a little higher in the streams, but no such luck. We still had a pretty good slog ahead of us. But we were definitely making time to enjoy the beauty around us. It was certainly a beautiful area.
It's hard to see, but you can see. Pictures do that no justice.
Of course pictures do it no justice. They never do. This split erratic is breathtaking, and it really captures your attention when you come across it. I really enjoyed this section of the trip, and as I reflected on the trip days later, this was the part that kept coming to mind. We seen much more notable things, and things that I enjoyed much more, but for some reason, this stuck with me.
And check the map. Here my nose. Seriously. I see flagging tape over there. Okay. flagging tape. Now where does it go? Where did we come here? Here.
Bill Mason was right. The way back for the canoe, that is the best part of the portage. The forest felt very different than what I'm used to in this area. It felt so dense and yet so open in under the canopy here. It's a hard thing to explain, I guess. It felt wild and remote.
From what I can see, it's just a bit. I think it's a little bit better up there.
We arrived at our last portage of the day. It was good to know that it was the last portage, but we were so done. Thank God it was short. And then we finally made it to camp. We made it to camp just in time for the weather to completely change. It was damp and it was going to rain. So we set up camp very efficiently and got our meals on the go. This night, though rainy and dreary, this night I felt calm and peace. I felt like we had done all of the really hard things. I finally felt like we were going to do it. We were actually going to accomplish what we set out to do. And it was hard, but we were able, and I felt really proud of us. Crawling out of the tent in the morning, we found a wet, dreary morning. We gathered some wood the night before and stashed it under the tarp so that we would have some dry wood to start our fire. We made our breakfast And we started packing our things because we knew that although it wasn't going to be a pleasant day due to the rain, we might be able to make it to a dry bed with a roof over our head for this night.
That's where we're headed. That could be it.
The rain let up by mid-morning, and it was a nice reprieve. But each one of the portages that we went through would have us soaking wet again because of all the water that was on the branches and the leaves as we passed through them. By the time we stopped for lunch on Roseway Lake, the sun came out and there was blue sky. I hung my pants on my pack to dry and slipped into my rain pants for the time being. Everything was dry by the time we got to the other end. Roseway Lake was a fairly large lake. At this point, the forest and the lake and the area felt more like home. We even started to see signs of human. We saw cabins and much better portage trails. This trail, this one takes the cake. It was definitely our favorite portage. We saw a little snake at the beginning of it, and the trail was fantastic. It was easy to follow and clean and clear. There were large pines and hemlocks. And this portage would take us into a lake that I had been to before. I was back in territory that I knew. I felt confident and happy and joyous. We enjoyed the sunshine for the rest of the day, although there were a couple times when some dark clouds came over us and a couple showers here and there. The clouds made a really cool formation at one point. It looked like a hole in the sky. Although the morning's rain had been a little miserable and we were soaked through and through and didn't enjoy it, being knee-deep in water was quite refreshing at this point in the day. The sun had warmed us up significantly. There was no portage around this area, and it was just a quick little chute, so I just lined it for convenience. We knew we were getting close to our destination for the night. It was exciting. It makes a big difference when you're in the backcountry to have the right clothing options. I wore the same outfit every single day. It dried quick, it was breathable, it was comfortable, antimicrobial, and protected me from the sun and the bugs. I was very thankful for that comfort. I didn't use my bug net during the trip. There were a few times where they got pretty bad, but I felt like as long as we kept moving, I was okay. Just don't stop too much.
I bet they did.
Oh, an old Great Canadian. It was my first canoe.
It was a strange feeling to arrive at camp that night. Just days before, we had been in some of the most remote areas of Nova Scotia, as far as we could get from a road. And now we were pretty damn close. It felt good. It felt successful. We felt like we had accomplished something really big. But it also felt sad and scary. I wasn't ready for this trip to end. I was, however, ready for a good meal and a good night's sleep. The next morning, we had bars, coffee, and popcorn for breakfast. And I don't regret a thing. It was such a good trip. Good? I don't know. I know that's not the word for it, but I don't necessarily have the words for it. It was our trip, and these are our memories. I hope you enjoy them, and I hope you have your own trip. I hope you experience the backcountry and all it has to offer.